morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe is observing Heroes Day. The question is, should they be celebrating or not? Benjamin.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. You know, Zimbabwe's case is very special. We are looking at, people that sacrifice their lives to get a better Zimbabwe in terms of freedom of expression, human rights, such that they can enjoy the privilege of their country and not be restricted, with some dubious measures. Fast forward down the line, it's like I said, it's a special case. We are still stuck, you know, in a confinement. There is no freedom. It's really sad.
I think the issue here is if those dead heroes were alive today, would be they joining in the celebrations or would they be disappointed? Issue then is what Zimbabwe has become is this what people died for? Is that what they were aspiring for? It's okay for ZANU PF to say, yes, this is what people wanted. But the majority of the people out there surely cannot be happy with this Zimbabwe today. That is the point.
You have a case where, there is nobody that can deny that, you know, at independence and, a few years after independence, Zimbabwe was the breadbasket of Africa or of Southern Africa. Let's start closer to home. And then fast forward through the years as we progressed. Instead of going forward, we were taking steps back. Now we are no longer the breadbasket of Southern Africa. We're a basket case. We are having to go begging for the simple thing like a staple food, which we all eat, maize. Sadza, we have to go and look for sadza by somebody else's house. That is where we are at. So surely nobody can be happy. You are right.
Well, I'd like to play this short video clip of Margaret Dongo, one of the freedom fighters in her own right, who was a ZANU PF um, MP and then became an independent, explaining the Zimbabwe we have today.
They have wrong priorities, especially the current government. How can you go and build an airport which services a few people, and the majority are the elite and the so-called investors? Look at the rural. I made you come to interview me because I wanted you to have the experience of the roads that we are using. If we go today to our hospital there, you feel pity with that's a hospital in a rural area. If we go to our clinic, you feel pity. We have no piped water here. Do you know the reason why the rural people vote for ZANU PF? One, they're intimidated. Two, the policy is that the rural people should remain poor and subservient to the government. They should remain poor because if they remain poor, they continue singing the song for their master. This is why these people have been impoverished. It's for a reason. Because at the moment, if you economic empower these people, they'll go out of hand. ZANU PF will never have control over them.
Speaks volumes of the reality in Zimbabwe. the political and economic reality in Zimbabwe. The people are being kept poor deliberately for the sake of ZANU-PF staying in power. How anyone can think that is what those ordinary people, some of them played a part in the liberation war, some of them did not. But to say that is what they aspired for, or aspiring for today, is an insult to those people. Zimbabwe has failed to deliver on the promise of economic development, freedom, justice. On all those fronts, it has failed to deliver. And therefore, then to pretend somehow this is the Zimbabwe we wanted, I think is the biggest lie that ZANU-PF and its apologists have been making.
You know, we have to look at it also, you know, in another perspective. You know, I remember watching a video where, you know, an interviewer was asking Zimbabweans at independence, you know, what they were, you know, hoping Mr. Mugabe would achieve. And, you know, there were nice things that were said: good housing, better pay, good jobs for my husband, and so forth, which is very, very good. But then the interviewer also went and asked and said, what if he fails? You know, it was shocking to find most of the people had no answer. And they decided to say, I don't think he will fail. I don't want to think about that. But then lo and behold, he failed. And not only failed, but failed miserably. So basically, we could say we did not have a plan if things went wrong. We were just thinking things would be smooth sailing. You know, we finally, you know, ruling ourselves. We've got a majority government, which is all nice. But what if it fails? And that question still comes up today. What if we fail? What are we going to do? And we are failing. What are we still going to do?
Yes, I think that is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. Here is another freedom fighter coming from a slightly different angle to that of Margaret Longo.
Saka munowina sei imuchorerwa chinhu chenyu?
aiwaga mirani kutaurire imwe zvinhu zvinoitika hani ndiri kutokutaurira kutaudza kuti hatina kupusaka because ndiri kutokutaurira kuti tozviziva takapusaka ndisikakutauriri zvese we'll deal with this situation at the appropriate time, but ndiri kutotaura kuti commander vamunangagwa right navachiwenga handidi right ngavadissolve politburo tikwane isu vari vechunhu ngavadissolve cabinet inozinana kazembe vana soda vanani havambozviutaga vane kupa niwa vane kambamuda vanani why do you hate your comrades? Kune mageneral, kune retired CIO vakawanda, kune retired commissioners of police and other senior officers vakawanda. Havadiwe.
Maybe the president is looking at capacity and capability.
Bullshit. Vana grade 7, and capacity and capability. Grade 7. What a beach you're going. Nasa it was Minister of State, Mangwana Provincial Minister. It's terrible. We are not apologetic about it. Children change. Turn out of Pinda, not out of the president, one was motor, one about you don't have a bodyguard.
But you've got your own cars. You've got a hotel at your house that you built in Sanyat. Why do you want all this?
I,
they've got money.
I want to be rewarded as well, not to be used like a political condom all the time. I'm not a political condom. And urikuona vana mahiya vaya vana vamwe.
I think this addresses the real root cause of Zimbabwe's failed state. We had those people who were in ZANU-PF. They genuinely believed that they have the divine right to rule the country and to have the choice fruit from it. And this is what has led to Zimbabwe becoming a failed state. This is why we have got to differentiate between the ZANU-PF ruling elite and those who genuinely believed in a free, fair, democratic Zimbabwe. We have had the misfortune of having Mnangagwa, Mugabe before him, who genuinely believe that they have the divine right to rule. And this is what has dragged the nation to this mess. And so I believe in what the person who produced this T-shirt was trying to say, that the genuine freedom fighters, they died for nothing. Because Zimbabwe found itself in a situation where the revolution was hijacked by Mugabe and his cronies for their own benefit at the expense of the benefit of the ordinary Zimbabwean. That message has got to be said loudly and very clearly. And I think my last remark on that point is that it is a pity that there are some people who still think, no, we can still have the fruits of independence 45 years after independence when they've been shortchanged the last 45 years. The truth is, they are just naive and gullible to believe that ZANU-PF would deliver your basic human rights and freedoms, including the right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. ZANU-PF will never deliver that. And this is why we really have got to wake up and open up our eyes and face that reality.
It is sad that, in the end, ZANU-PF hijacked the people's movement. It was the people of Zimbabwe that fought to liberate themselves. And I firmly believe it was not only ZANU-PF, members that went and fought for the liberation of Zimbabwe, but you had many organizations, you had many people that, went and volunteered independent from ZANU-PF just to get their basic human rights. And unfortunately, like I say, the ZANU-PF took away that, and they ran with the story that they are the liberation and the only liberation movement. And then in the end, they gave themselves that divine rule to say, we did this, we are going to keep, in power, which was not the whole essence of the war. This was not the whole reason why the war started in the very beginning. And unfortunate, and that's the biggest unfortunate part that we have, is that we have now a people that seem to be clueless to how this whole saga would be ended. And there is no end in sight if we have people that are like that. Because let us rewind and start from the very beginning. What was it that drove people to go and fight in the Chimurenga War? Has that been achieved? If not, then which means there is something that is wrong along the way. Let's fix it.
My last remark is to those people who are celebrating this Heroes Day and tomorrow will be celebrating Armed Forces Day. Those are days that should be observed, that we should be celebrating, but we cannot. Because the freedom that people died for has not been accomplished. Somebody hijacked the process. In the picture there, we are talking about elections. This is a fundamental right. More than a right, this is the essence of good governance. ZANU-PF has denied the people of Zimbabwe good governance for the last 45 years. What is there to celebrate about that? People have got to wake up and start looking at the issues. Otherwise, we end up fulfilling Ian Smith's prediction that we'll be walking on sewage and think it normal. ZANU-PF has rigged the elections for the last 45 years. That is not normal. That is totally unacceptable. Because the repercussions of it, the consequences of that, is that the country has been stuck with a failed state for 45 years. And this is why millions are living in abject poverty with no hope of a really meaningful future. That is nothing to celebrate. There really is nothing to celebrate. The heroes who died for Zimbabwe's independence and freedom and end of white oppression are turning their graves to see what Zimbabwe has come. A byword of a failed state. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And those of you who were able to join us, thank you. Hope you'll be able to do it again. Same time, 7 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Good evening.